Hello there, GB here, and welcome to Fast Forward, where I follow up on episodes of Rewind classic movies to look at what happened after those iconic films came out. Today we're diving back into the brilliantly bonkers and marvellously mystical world of Big Trouble in Little China, and the most incompetent yet charismatic sidekick of all time, Jack Burton.
Who? Jack Burton. Me.
We'll look at everything from how the film's story officially carried on right after the moment it left off in the 1986 movie, to a sequel with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, as well as board games, video games, comics, and more. So let's slip into our white vests, grab our keys to our meat-themed vehicles, and return to John Carpenter's Chinatown. But before we carry on the story of the 1986 film, let's start with something that would blow my childhood mind. Video games. In 1992, chances are you'd find me in front of a tiny CRT screen playing Mortal Kombat, but back then I had no idea that some of the game's characters were influenced by Big Trouble in Little China, including my favourite, Raiden, the electric god of thunder, who is quite clearly based on the lightning-wielding character from the film. Yes, there is a Japanese thunder god that kickstarted the idea, but apparently the usual appearance is a pot-bellied demon with a drum, and Mortal Kombat co-creator John Tobias said the film helped shape his look into something different. Also, the game's evil big bad sorcerer Shang Tsung is based on Lo Pan and was going to be called Shang Lao. Shang Lo? Big Trouble also had its own video game in 1986. The side-scrolling beat-em-up was released on the ZX Spectrum, Commodore 64, which I had, and Amstrad CPC. You could play as Jack Wang or Egg and switch between them, but weirdly the game played from right to left, not left to right. Was it any good? No, not really.
This is shit. And I've lost my knife.
But the film did have lots of positive influences on all sorts of pop culture. Far too many to mention them all, so here's a few. In the 90s Iron Man comic, Marvel supervillain the Mandarin's appearance was modelled on Lo Pan. An episode of the 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles TV series called A Chinatown Ghost Story used bits from the film, but renames the antagonist from Lo Pan to Ho Chan. James Hong even came back to voice the character.
Behold, treacherous warriors.
There's also Rick and Morty episodes, through to many musical influences, even a rock band named Lo Pan. And more on music later, because there's a special one we touched on in the main Rewind episode.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
I want to go deeper into. Director Taika Waititi even said that Big Trouble was an influence in making Ragnarok, particularly how Thor acts as a goofy protagonist.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Surrounded by a larger-than-life fantasy world. And in 2015, Funko released a line of pop figures based on Big Trouble in Little China. Good luck buying them now. They go for a fortune. One sad part of the legacy, though, is that after the commercial and critical failure of the film, John Carpenter became disillusioned with Hollywood.
Keep in mind that if Big Trouble is attacked by groups who find something wrong with it, it's because they don't want to be invisible.
And said in an interview that the experience of making Big Trouble was the reason that he stopped making movies for Hollywood studios. He said, "I won't work for them again. I think Big Trouble is a wonderful film and I'm very proud of it, but the reception it received and the reasons for that reception were too much for me to deal with. I'm too old for that sort of bullshit." Sounds like another film we might watch soon. It has since enjoyed a resurgence on television and home video. I mean, I say since, I mean the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s. Some critics and fans consider it one of John Carpenter's best movies. And Empire magazine voted it the 430th greatest film in their 500 greatest movies of all time list. Seems a little low. The comic book series. I bet you're dying to know what happened in the story after the movie, and we finally found out in 2014 when an official graphic novel came out that continued the adventures. And it is official because it was co-written by the film's director, John Carpenter, along with Eric Powell, who created the Goon series, which is known for mixing the comical, the violent, and the supernatural. So it's a good fit. The series picks up immediately after the movie's conclusion, like right as Jack is driving the Pork Chop Express away from the madness of everything that's just happened, and that big orange Ludo monster is revealed to be on the back of it. I'm not going to go super deep into the story or spoilers, but I am going to tell you what happens with the monster. So fast forward about 30 seconds or so if you want to keep the reveal a surprise. It looks like Jack is about to be suddenly attacked by a demon. Here we go. But instead of harming him, the monster pledges its loyalty to him, recognizing Jack as the one who defeated its former master, Lopan. This unexpected alliance sets the stage for a new journey filled with supernatural challenges. Jack then reunites with his friend Wang, whose wedding is interrupted by vengeful spirits seeking retribution against those who thwarted Lopan's plans. Say that 7 times fast. Lopan's plans. To protect their loved ones and restore peace, Jack and Wang embark on a quest that leads them through various mystical realms and pits them against formidable adversaries. The initial run spanned 25 issues, diving deeper into the mystical underworld of Chinatown, exploring new characters and threats while maintaining the film's unique blend of humour and action. The series was praised for capturing the essence of the original film, with dynamic artwork and storytelling that appealed to both long-time fans and newcomers. There are some really great stories here with novel titles that include things like The Hell of the Midnight Road and The Ghost of Storms, and The Return of Lopan and How Jack Burton Became King of the Lords of Death. But my favourite might be I Hate the 80s. Great title for a Big Trouble in Little China comic. Throughout the series, Jack remains this brash, confident, and often comically inept hero that we love, but the comics do provide a deeper insight into his character, looking at his loyalty, courage, and those underlying insecurities masked by his bravado. Wang evolves from this earnest sidekick to a more complex character, grappling with personal responsibilities and the weight of their shared adventures. The art is awesome, and the series was well received by fans and critics alike. It was praised for its faithful continuation of the film's spirit and its expansion of the Big Trouble universe. Following the success of the initial series, we then got Big Trouble in Little China, Old Man Jack, which was released in 2017. Now, this series presents an older Jack Burton facing apocalyptic events in a dystopian future. Familiar. Co-written by John Carpenter again and Anthony Birch, it's a darker but still humorous take on Jack's later years, exploring themes of aging and legacy while staying true to the original spirit. Oh, and there was also a crossover limited series between Jack Burton and Snake Plissken titled Big Trouble in Little China / Escape from New York, and that came out in 2016. One more recommendation though, if you can get your hands on one, the official art of Big Trouble in Little China is a beautiful coffee table book that is as fascinating as it is sex for the eyes. I haven't mentioned the official film sequel yet, have I? We better get to that soon. But before we do, let's talk about board games. You can file this under Enjoy if you can afford the mental prices. In 2018, Everything Epic Games released a cooperative board game titled, wait for it, Big Trouble in Little China, The Game. It's for up to 4 players. You take on roles of characters like Jack or Wang or Gracie Law, and you have to work together to navigate the mystical underworld of Chinatown, completing quests and battling enemies to thwart Lopan's schemes. The game is divided into 2 acts. The first focuses on completing missions in Chinatown, while the second is the showdown in Lopan's lair. The game was praised for its thematic components, immersive storytelling, and high replayability, allowing you to relive iconic moments and explore new scenarios within the game's universe. There was also a deck-building card game that came out in 2016. It's called Legendary, Big Trouble in Little China. It's a semi-cooperative game for 2 to 5 players using that classic deck-building mechanic. So you buy cards from a central pool and work together against a villain deck. The cards feature original artwork based on characters from the movie and comes with 400 cards and a special playmat. Lopan style. Now, we teased a little bit of this in the main Rewind episode, but you really need to see this for yourself if you haven't already. The parody music video of the song Gangnam Style is called Lopan Style, and it came out in 2012. It's not just a brilliant parody, also has a cameo by James Hong, aka Lopan. Sexy Lady becomes Green-Eyed Lady, Jack Burton does a dialogue interlude from the Pork Chop Express, and there's plenty of little details to spot that you recognise from the film. The costumes and the makeup are fantastic, and the video is arguably better than the song.
David Lopan style.
It's a good, fun few minutes. Sequels and reboots. Okay, here's where it's going to get controversial for some, at least judging by the comments on the main episode. Over the years, there have been discussions about a sequel or reboot of Big Trouble in Little China. Most notably in 2015, when it was announced that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was attached to a project to remake it, with The Rock rumoured to be taking over as Jack Burton in a script by the same people that wrote X-Men First Class. Then, around 2018, it was being talked of as a kind of sequel. In 2021, the production company said, quotes, "Needless to say, we are still working on making that happen, but as with any great project, the road is not easy, but we are sticking to it. We're going to figure out a way to continue the story of Big Trouble in Little China." It's been rumbling on ever since, and even as late as 2023, 2024, Kurt Russell was asked about it, and he said he'd be up for returning as an older Jack, but there are 2 or 3 conditions, is what he said. Maybe I should do this in a Kurt Russell accent. You never say never. I mean, if somebody were to write a great script that was better than the first one, I'm not going to do it. It had something new to say. I don't know. We can slap John Carpenter around a little bit and say, come on, John, let's do this. 2023 also saw James Wan, director of Aquaman and Furious 7 and producer of the newest Mortal Kombat movies, say that he'd love to have a crack at it. But who knows if it will ever get made? And should it? Would you rather see a Rock remake or a Kurt Russell Old Man Jack sequel? Anyway, join me and AJ next week for the main Rewind show, as we'll be going to 1987 to talk about a film which opens with drugs and boobs that AJ accidentally started watching with his young son, who was definitely not too old for that shit. I cannot wait. Sorry about the mess. See you next time.